JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. November 4th, 2024, about 8:55 on this fine Monday. Gonna talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. Take a look at S&P futures, pretty much flat S&P futures, about 0.8%. Big, busy week, right? We have 1,254 companies reporting earnings. We have the Fed meeting, Fed decision Wednesday with Powell at 2:30 for his press conference, and of course the election. So very busy. Hopefully, and we've had a busy week. Last week had the magnificent seven, five of them reporting, so we got through that. Hopefully, we can get through this. The VIX can start to melt lower. It was at 23. Let's see where it is right now at the second. Uh, but 22.44, and then the 10-year yield just continued to rise. So they're actually down a little bit here today. So hopefully that's the start of a meltdown. Some of it will be the election, right? So uncertainty is never good for markets, regardless of what the outcome for the election is. Just that there is a possibility of not knowing the outcome is uncertainty. So that's some of it. And then hopefully Fed Chair Powell can uh, kind of soothe markets a little bit, and yields can start going down, and maybe that starts the possibly the markets can start to retest highs. If not, you start looking at that 50-day on the SPY, 568 and change. I was watching that last week. We had that pull on Thursday. Again, Thursday's pull, it wasn't like there was any major news. Like the earnings were great from Microsoft and Meta, but the costs associated with AI and their spend on some of the things they're doing, like Meta's metaverse, it's like that was not a surprise in my opinion, but the market sold it off anyway. So it's just like it's like folks finally picked the direction. It was to the downside. So hopefully we can hold the 50-day on the SPY here today. Tomorrow, um, election is resolved Wednesday morning, so we have a clear-cut winner coming out of Wednesday. Probably the worst scenario would be for the no declared winner for weeks, right? That would be the worst kind of outcome. And then markets maybe can find some footing. Fed is pretty much a 0.25% rate cut is 100% the probability. Anything outside of that, it would be a huge surprise. And then Powell's just got to paint that picture. Uh, Hopefully, a little more dovish than hawkish, and to get the yields to head down. I mean, you take a look at the 10-year yields, just remarkable. You would think the market's pricing in rate hikes as opposed to rate cuts. So pretty remarkable. And then over the weekend, I mean, it seems like I wouldn't say every, but there's always a narrative for the market, especially when we're at near highs. Especially and usually from the bears who try and give this scenario of, oh, here's the start of a big pullback. In this weekend, what was it? It was Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway sitting on a record cash hoard, over 300, was it 327 billion, something like that in cash, and saying, oh, and pretty much saying this is we should all be very wary. This is the start. This is a big an omen for markets. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you want to see him be more aggressive, but he was aggressive buying Bank of America when it's $2 back in 2008. So I mean, it kind of helps put things in perspective. I think some of it I put on a watch. I said, I mean, Apple's been on a tear since I got it. I remember when they got Apple and their first bought it. It wasn't Warren Buffett's decision, and Apple wasn't. It seemed Apple had already went on a tear already. So like, is Apple still going to get go higher? And then it turns out it was a tremendous holding for him, and it's done very well. So it's the higher it goes, the more of a position is for him. So they had to resize that. And then you have the Bank of America selling a position, and maybe they're looking finally to do another M&A deal, which everybody's been waiting for it. Is it going to be Oxy? Who knows? All right, so that was the headlines over the weekend. All right, so now some individual names. First, I mean, VKTX. So everybody was waiting patiently for the poster to come out for their oral data, which it was more on the dosage side, right? So the VKTX, the big reason why you hear me talk about a lot of folks on FinTwit, if you read, it's because their drug is best in class, best in regards to weight loss percentage and best in regards to adverse effects. And adverse effects is the big wild card with a lot of these names. And VKTX has the best in class for adverse effects. So the data comes out and you look at the 100 milligram dosage. And the thing with VKTX is because their adverse effects are so low, nil to little to nil, is they're able to ramp up dosage. So this study, after having the first initial run with the oral data, was to raise the dosage and to see if they had a better results and continued low to little adverse effects. And sure enough, the 100 dosage showed within 28 days an 8.2% weight loss, 100% of the cohort. I think it's only 9 folks did the 100 milligram study, but 100% of them lost over 5%. And then if you take it the placebo, I guess the placebo over 28 days, people lost 1.4% just because they thought they were on the drug. So you're looking at a 6.8% weight loss. I mean, that's insane. Much better than all the other ones out there. And then the adverse effects are still low. I think it was 44% of those. So nine. So five of the 9 folks, no, 4 of the 9 folks had some kind of mild nausea, right? Which I mean, anybody could say, oh, I have an upset stomach. So who knows what that looks like? But it kind of opens the door for them to have an even higher dosage study. So that's that. I mean, if you told me that data Friday, I would have said the stock's over $100 come Monday morning, and it was in the 90s in the pre-market, and has since gave back almost all the gains here. It's still up $2. I mean, it's such you have to. If there's a company who still doesn't have uh, their hands in a space, this is. I mean, it's going to drive me nuts again, like it always does. We'll see what happens here at the open. If it holds and starts to bounce, maybe I'll look for some more strikes, but just monster data. And again, some of it. So when you have a drug like this and take it to market, you have all the costs associated with marketing, production, FDA, all those things. It costs a lot of money. So to go from point A, the very start to the end of finally get the drug to market, it's a huge capital expenditure. I mean, they have $1 billion in cash, so I don't know if that's some of it, and that's why it continues to have a high short interest, and it just really can't get going. Maybe this is it. Hopefully, finds a bid here at the open and starts reversing and rallies through the end of the day. Just anyway, so that's VKTX. GPCR, I added some speculative calls. I wouldn't call them speculative because there's still plenty of time on them, 2 weeks. But they have a poster and presentation. They have 2 of them today at 2:30, talking about their GLP-1 drug. So they also had an issue with adverse effects, and some of it, I think there was frequency of dosage was going to be a way that they were going to kind of help mitigate the adverse effects. I don't know, but this is another name that I mean, it's one of my top 5 stocks for 2024, but it's also a name that you hear out there with VKTX in regards to a possible M&A. So I think if they have any decent data or better than expected, it trades over $50. So I thought the 55 strikes were a nice risk reward, and I'll continue to look for opportunities to play GPCR. Last time it had data, it was down. It had bad adverse effects, and this is back in June or late May, and then it reversed from like $38 all the way up to 60. Who knows what's going to happen here? It just shows that I think people looking at the adverse effects side for GPCR and saying, well, this is a problem that they're probably going to be able to solve down the line. So that's GPCR. DELL was strong yesterday, Friday. So we had the big move on Wednesday when the SMCI had the big news, right? So they continued their auditor resigned, and it's going to be a whole snowball with SMCI. It's going to take a long time for them to get back into good grace or whatever that outcome. I don't even know what that outcome looks like, but I've been saying it for a while. I think you have to think that people are going to at some point going to pull back orders. I don't know. So there's reports or rumors out this morning that supposedly NVIDIA is pulling back from Supermicro and going to look for other ways for other suppliers. I don't know. But either way, I think this is net bullish for DELL. I think it should be rallying anyway on its own merits. But you had the big move on Wednesday on the SMCI news. Then it gave it back on Thursday with the market. And then Friday it rallied. It was up nearly 6%. And then you see some follow through here today. Tested almost, it was 135 here in the pre-market. Still have I sold some of those 145, still have some of those into next week. I'll probably look to close more out here, depending on what those look like, and then look for some more strikes because it could be the start of a nice move here. Not only that, you have the big Dow moves today, right? You have Sherman-Williams, which is a $90 billion market cap, added to the Dow. NVIDIA added to the Dow. And the funny thing is, NVIDIA is going to have less of a weighting than Sherman-Williams on the Dow. Like, how does that make sense? How does that index? It's like doesn't make sense that Sherman-Williams could have a bad earnings report and fall 10% and have a bigger impact than NVIDIA if NVIDIA sold off 10%. It just anyway, rants for other days, but some of that might help the semi sector as well with NVIDIA. So I think it bodes well for DELL. Couple of names here really quick, and I put Lemonade on the watch list last week after its earnings. That sector has been doing well. Then Lemonade had a surprise quarter. Take a look. It's got a huge short interest. Once it broke 25, I thought it was a key breakout spot. Uh, I added some strikes, and then sure enough, it gave it back into the close. Hopefully, it gets back over 25 bucks, and I think 30 plus comes soon. Travel Zoo up nearly another 3% on Friday. It was over 18 at times in the morning. Just continues to head higher. And you have to think now that the blackout period is out for earnings, that the buyback, maybe they kick that in. Like I said, Travel Zoo had 3 million shares traded in September, and they have a 1 million share buyback authorization that is probably going to happen rapidly. So a lot of the volume might just be the company buying back. I'm still looking for March strikes, possibly December's as well, and I'll look to lock the rest of my Novembers in at some point. 1750s, just the last few of those first, and then the November 20s, which I think if you take a look, Travel Zoo could break over 20 this week, which would be nice. Peloton, disappointing on Friday. It seemed like, and there were analysts coming out after their earnings on Thursday. The analysts came out Friday morning. Some of them just raised their price targets, but kept their neutral or negative rating on the stock. And then it gave back. It opened. I think it opened at 840, went all the way up to 876, and then just melted for the rest of the day. Closed down 14%. Gave back most of the gains from Thursday. And then this morning, of B of A upgraded the stock from underperform to buy, so 2-notch rating upgrade, which is huge. And then they raised their price target from 350 to $9. So just uh, hopefully it's just the kick it needs from break away from Friday's negative sentiment, and then just start to take off. I'll just continue to hold my strikes that I have. I still think Peloton trades over $10 in the coming weeks. And then last couple here, Win reports earnings after the close today. Not going to add any more to my strikes. I have to think if it's a solid beat and raise, the stock's going to trade into the mid to low 100, so 105, 110 or so. And then maybe that just kickstarts it. You start looking at its move at the start of October all the way up to 107.50, so that'd be the big spot. Really like Win. And then SE reports earnings next week. Rough couple sessions to start last week, so if we can find some footing here today, I'll look for some calls on Compass earnings next week. I think that's it. Yeah, 1,245 companies reporting. WW reports earnings this week too. I didn't put it on the charts here because it's not a position I'm going to add, but I'll certainly be watching to see if they can give more color around their, compound program that they're allowed to give out to their membership base, which rants for other days. So have a great day. We got 22 minutes to the open. I'll be back. Rock and roll.